What a past couple weeks it's been for this series. Drivers have had to deal and battle with three variously different tracks. For the past two races, though, one man has dominated them all. Brandon Hawkins started off what's been a dominant stretch to begin the campaign after finding his way to a 12-second advantage at Suzuka. Then, at Road America, craziness ensued for the final lap of the race, where there were several lead changes and several bits of contact, all throughout the final 4 miles of that race. But tonight, those same drivers and more get ready to try and battle once again, this time, as the American swing rolls its way to the virtual Watkins Glen International, as we get ready to see who can come away with the checker flag of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge today. Welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage and today's edition of the Sim Experience Countdown to Green, live for the virtual Watkins Glen International in Watkins Glen, New York, for round 4 of season 5 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. As these competitors get ready to try and tackle what should be an interesting and unique circuit today, let's take a look at your GSRC track guide to learn more about the historic Watkins Glen International.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and Turn 9 greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
That was a look at your GSRC track guide for Watkins Glen International. Let's remember our broadcast partner for tonight, Stefan Schlacker, as we'd like to remind you first to remember the Countdown to Green is brought to you by the Sim Experience AccuForce steering system. The most advanced tuning features on the market, the AccuForce Direct Drive is second only to the real thing. To check out the entire Sim Experience line of products, head on over to simexperience.com. And these drivers will need to use all the experience they have on hand today here for this one as we get ready to go racing with the booth here at Watkins Glen. Stefan.
Yeah, and Justin, this track is what you like to see on a Sunday afternoon drive. Beautiful curves, sweeping one into another, one big backstretch. Really no trouble spots whatsoever for this MX-5, except for maybe the runoff at turn 1, which we're obviously allowed to use. So might see a little bit of trouble there in those 11 turns. From that, smooth sailing all the way. Drop with the big packs down the backstretch, 3, 4, 5, what we can see that happening. Might not see it actually because people probably don't be that case, but the big stretch spot at the chicane is at the backstretch has been evaporated from the class, and I'm all set for it, Justin.
Apologize for the technical issue on Stefan's behalf as these drivers get ready to tackle this track. But to summarize once again, no bus stop, full layout for these drivers today. But one driver has had a dominant stretch to start so far. This one in particular is Brandon Hawkins with 77 total points, back-to-back wins already, both at Suzuka and Road America. He currently leads over the winner from the season opener at Okayama International Circuit, Elvis Rankin. The youngster and one of the up-and-coming iRacers and rear-world drivers to keep an eye out for the road courses is currently trailing by 13 points. Torres, 25 points back injuries today. He'll look to try and pounce if things get hectic once more. Robert Hartley and Clifford Evan round out your top 5, 34 and 43 points behind today. Let's take a look at your race details as these drivers once again getting ready to go for 40 minutes of action today. Once again, fixed setups in these Mazda MX-5s and their Cup cars. 20 incident points is your limit, which has been a factor in the past in some of the more hectic lead pack races, and the points will be rewarded to anyone who finishes from 1st to 15th today. And once again, drivers first come, first serve for registry for what's expected to be a very intense field today here at Watkins Glen. Now, let's take a look at your weather conditions for today's action. Drivers will once again be doing with the poor racetrack on iRacing Day, May 15th, 2020 rather. The in-sim time already approaching 7:40 p.m. local time. Partly cloudy skies, 56% humidity for these drivers today. Now, Stefan, these cars getting ready for what's expected to be a pretty interesting one. Track position always very key in qualifying. These drivers, as you'll see for your qualifying details presented by SHH Shifter, doing with 15 minutes of qualifying for the next 4 laps of solo qualifying. Strict scrutiny means say you do that, there is a chance you get a black flag, or you get yourself back to the pit lane, get yourself some fresh tires. However, most drivers need the full 4 laps to be able to try and set the best time they can at these racetracks. SSH Shifter, by the way, uses the only best commercial plastics to create the high-quality 3D printed shifters you need to give it a roll on the track. Their commitment to detail and durability ensures you receive the perfect shifter. Find them on the web at SHH Shifter, or shiftershh.com. Stefan, either way, expected to be a pretty interesting race today without the boot. Without the bus stop, rather.
Yeah, most definitely. And you said track position is important. It is important to some degree with this big of amount of a draft percentage from the whole track. You kind of lose the sense of where do you really need to be in the qualifying. You still can be in the top 10 and get to the front by the end of the race, but obviously you have to work harder, you have to use more tires, and that's where the really important strategy comes in. The thing you don't consider, the tires. Which side do you take, left or right? It's 11 turns, so there is a little bit more percentage to the right here, but the big thing is these left-hand turns are also extremely important for a fast lap time.
Taking a look right now on Andreas Prieto, one of the current 40-plus entrants for today's action. Still a few more expected. He's having a pretty good qualifying run. Compare that to Munoz, who's now stopping on the racetrack. These competitors trying to get to the 2:09.3s right now, which is the pole time currently set by, no surprise, Brendan Hawken. Torres, Kenshin, Prieto, and Saunders are currently your top 5 of the board. That's a half a second difference already in qualifying. And the difference to Owen Watts, for example, he's already almost a full second plus back in his RSR machine. This time by for Watts at 2:12, Stefan.
Yeah, Owen Watts is trying his best, but the good thing is it's still the draft that counts most. You can probably see in the first half of this race where we're gonna have like half of the field still be together, so it's not gonna be too important right now your time, as long as you're inside those, as before mentioned, top 10, maybe even top 15, and then you still have a very good shot at winning this race as Hayden Gilbert comes over the finish line in 25th. Can he improve on his lap time? That was a hard no.
Keep in mind that live time and in scoring is available for today's event by going to gsrc.tv to keep up with your favorite teams and drivers. Once again, that's gsrc.tv. Be sure to follow along where you can see how the times are, as well as the intervals throughout the field and more for today's action. Now, still 5 minutes to go in qualifying here for many of these competitors. What are some of the things you're keeping in mind, especially with the championship fight having such a roller coaster beginning to the campaign outside of Brendan Hawkins coming away with the back-to-back wins?
Yeah, obviously, unless you're Brendan Hawking, you want that first win or second win if you're Elvis Rankin. You want that win. You need that win at this point in the championship. We're already 3 races in. This is what really starts to count what you do on the track. The first 2-3 races, you can get away with mistakes like we have seen already, especially last time around in Road America. But that 4th race is what really starts to count. If Brendan Hawking gets her another win, he can secure himself already quite a good spot and quite a good shot till the end of the season.
Absolutely, and already a couple drivers to keep an eye on who are yet to set a qualifying time. Vicente Salas, who is a world championship competitor in the Rallycross side of the iRacing service, has yet to set a time. Odise Adams, one of those drivers as well, which is on the Not a Team group. Apparently that's a thing. That is also on one of the AlphaTauri theme paint schemes for today. Also, not yet to set a time either. Right now is Shane Sullivan in the 91 machine, who's currently in the boot at the moment, who had a solid run last week at Road America, rather, where that whole final grouping was such a hectic battle because they get an extra lap. There's a chance drivers ran out of gas there, as they said in post-race coverage, Stefan.
Yeah, it was really good for some of the people that they didn't run that extra lap, because if I remember correctly, it was Elvis Rankin who was one of the guys that would have ran out of fuel. Also, Robert Hartley would have been one of those guys that would have ran out of fuel.
Oh, and now he's crashing.
Oh!
And Shane Sullivan, just like that, may not get the chance to try and go for back-to-back top 5s. That was his best career finish, by the way. Also, by the way, Christian Lindroff has bumped his way up to P5. He is currently now in the 2097, so 0.4 of a second difference there, as George Fike back in the field tonight, looking to also show what he can do. Here's Vicente Salas, who's on his warm-up lap, coming to this first lap. This time he's representing factory kart, and he does have a lot of go-karting experience if you follow his real-world career, Stefan.
Yeah, and hopefully that does help him a little bit in that MX-5, because you can sort of drive it like a kart in some of the corners. As Brendan Hawking comes to the start-finish line to finish his last lap, it is actually not quite faster, 0.001 of a second slow, Justin.
He's going to be tough to beat if he's doing that on his own already. Meanwhile, nice lap here from Munoz, up to 10th, a 2:09.9 to end off his qualifying session. Taking a look at Lee Martin now, a 2:014.6 doesn't bump up his time for these competitors. Once again, the 4 total laps on the board, it takes a bit of time for some of them to build up speed, but the best usually can get within range to potentially bump it up. The sweet spot has usually been lap 3, as we've seen, Stefan, for some of these cars. Unless, of course, you're some of the ones trying to bump up a full second, like Jonas Seeger here to the 2:10s.
Yeah, most of the people are doing the 2-stint strategy, go out on a flying and then immediately reset and do another one. And that really does work, for example, like Brendan Hawking was doing. Benzie Hamlet comes to the start-finish line a full second slower than his current fastest lap. But I think, no, actually that was his last one, so he is done. 8th place for him. One of the guys that still can bump him from that position is actually Anders Prieto. 8th place right now, and he's just entering the tow section.
Taking a look back at Vicente Salas right now, and this is one of the more interesting parts of this, because Watkins Glen, such a historic track, that section adds when you have an extra couple passing zones for these competitors today try and dive underneath and get some draft.
Yeah, especially that heel turn, that right-hander before you jump again onto the cup layout. That really is a very great passing opportunity. The others not to really have to work for them and to really make a hard pass to set yourself up there. But as I said, it's adding opportunities, and opportunities can always result to passes.
Vicente Salas up to 14th, by the way, as here's that car you're referring to a little bit in the tow, Andres Prieto. He's had some good speed throughout the season, just hasn't had some of the luck quite yet to compete in the main pack. By the time things have separated out, He dropped the 23 car today. A 209.693, a P5 for him in qualifying in the final 30 seconds. How about that?
Yeah, great job there by Prieto, jumping himself from 8th up to 5th. That means Ben Hamlet now back to 7th place as Steve Bunting comes over the start-finish line yet to set a lap. The 43, let's see what he is going to put in here. Was it just a slow one? Or, oh, it didn't even count for him apparently. That was just an outlap.
Not enough time to get a time in because it's time for the Pitbox.io starting grid. Pitbox.io is the new cloud-based data platform that allows drivers, engineers, and coaches to store, analyze, and share data such as track notes and car setup to better improve performance on the racetrack. Visit Pitbox.io to get started. Take a very quick glance at your starting lineup as we get ready for the standing start. Brandon Hawkins will start on the pole today with a 209.384, with Torres starting alongside him just a tenth of a second back. Sonny Kenshin will try and use his experience from P3. He'll start alongside one of the up-and-coming youngsters, experienced in several different disciplines in real world, starts in 4th. Priel starts in 5th, with Christian Lindroff in 6th. Ben Hamlet, Nico Armilomi, James Saunders, and Daniel Munoz round out your top 10s today, Sister Fall.
Jordan Bachmeier just about misses out on that 10th spot. He's gonna start in 11th. One of the top runners last time around, Juan Manuel Fernandez, only 12th place, so he really has to make work happen here alongside Clifford Eben, who's gonna start in 13th, Vicente Salas in 14th, Caleb Heights in 15th, Kukukut, also one of the top runners last week around, 16th only for him, so he really has to work, with Otis Adams in 17th, Rui Coimbra 18th, Joaquin Pasti in 19th, and 20th was Juan Bustamante.
21st spot goes to Adam Merrick with Hato in 22nd. Owen Watts for RSR Esports 23rd. Nate Filicetti in 24th. Austin G. Johnson will start 25th with Ari Harlow 26th. Smith, Fiona Seeger, George Fike, and Dave Farr the top 30. Rest of the field now will cycle through. 42 entrants make it to the starting grid for today's action. Only Shane Sullivan and Steve Bunting not setting qualifying times. Green lights are out. We're underway from the virtual Watkins Glen International for today's edition of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. A great launch for Brandon Hawkins off into the 90 to start off the action. Already single file for the top 5 cars as the rest go double file.
Yeah, double and even triple file in the back into turn 1, but it seems like so far so clean. Good start by everybody.
No incidents off the early jump as they go through the S's for the first time, and this is one of the more trickier parts. If you mess up the S's, you have the potential to have a track blocker in this scenario. No one making any major mistakes here. Couple going a bit wider, but first drafting section already up for grabs. The leaders are already seeing a shuffle. Sonny Kenshin wants the lead already in his AMS machine. Underneath Brandon Hawkins, taking a preferred line. He's already jumped to the front from 3rd.
Yeah, good job, there we go, by Sonny Kenshin here in that 059, already up to 1st place from 3rd. So he really wanting to make that work happen here with Matt Hawking now back to 2nd. They really need to shuffle Hawking back if they want to have an early shot at the championship lead.
Yeah, nice and settled on down. Here comes the next section for drivers to try and pounce if they can build enough speed through the boot. All the way in the run-up to the heel, you'll see a bit of it from here forward in this long straight line for several drivers, including those 3 wide scenarios in the mid-pack. Drivers like Brandon Hawkins, though, are taking the time to save fuel. In this section, contact, though, for about 5th on back. Right behind Rankin, it was Ben Hamlet who gave the door to Prieto going into the corner. Taking advantage on the outside is James Saunders. He doesn't get the position, however, tries for the switchback as they head towards the final corners.
Yeah, lots of shuffling still going around. I can also report Clifford Eben and Juan Manuel Fernandez really haven't made too much work yet. They're still somewhere in that top 10, outside of the top 10 region, as Clifford Eben now makes a move himself into the last turn. Makes that happen as we come around to finish the first lap.
That's around 13th. By the way, one of your top drivers from last week has already been shuffled up through the field to 8th position. Shane Sullivan, the 33rd. End of the first lap, and contact. James Saunders getting spun around. Andres Prieto bumped him out of the way. What a save as the BRT cars move. There's the contact back as they start crashing into the S's.
Oh no, that's a track block.
And there go the new tire models and track models showing all the parts flying. 3, 4, 5, 6 more cars backing up into traffic. Cars involved as deep as about 40th.
Oh no, and one of the cars involved here was Juan Manuel Fernandez.
Yep, and that's going to shuffle up the points as you can see tempers flared a little bit with that track rejoin after getting bump and ran into the 90.
Well, that's just the thing with this kind of tarmac runoff that we have here. It really cuts back really fast, and he just had no choice other than that to avoid the grass on the left side. But that obviously has now really kicked off the battles inside those top 20s. We're looking at the front once again as there's a pass happening for 4th place. Ben Hamlet taking that away from Sonic Engine.
By the way, that is the teammate to Saunders, who's trying to show what he can do. For one of the first times we've seen him up towards the front in recent memory. Heck of a start for him so far. By the way, Elvis Rankin has made his way up to 2nd in all that craziness. Torres is your race leader at the moment. I have to love how these cars go burr the way they do, as drivers will tell you, Stefan.
Yeah, it's the greatest sound in racing in reality. Those Mazda MX-5's engine really love to get those revs rolling, and it's a great feeling if you can get that car just to the limit of that rev limiter, hit every upshift, and just make it sound like a nice little kitten. As Vicente Salas puts in a fastest lap on lap number 2, 2:09.442. That would be already enough to secure himself in position, I think. No, actually it would have been 2nd.
Well, that's with in part the help of the draft, but also he's up to 8th position, and he's at the tail end of this lead pack. Because of what happened with James Saunders, everybody else is at least a second behind. If you're Saunders and Evan, at least 6 seconds plus. If you're everybody else, as we take a look at Salas trying to jump by one of the BRT machines. This is Nico Arilomi that he's trying to draft by, picking up a little bit of it from Ben Hamlet as they try and shuffle the race lead. Brandon Hawkins just took away the lead, while preferred line taken from Vicente Salas. He's now +7.
Yep, at the front there was also a pass for position. Brandon Hawking has now taken over the lead here ahead of Jaume Masas Torres. Elvis Ranking now back in 3rd place.
And Hamlet not able to make a move. Did try it, we've seen a little bit. The British-based driver has competed in the past in go-kart karting championships, whether in the UK or in Belgium in his young career. Most recently has competed in various different Formula-style championship runs. More so, I should say, in some of the open-wheel championships, in some of the F3 or up-and-coming cars for that sign of iRacing service.
The 2 cars you see in the background, by the way, of pretty much every shot of this leading group, that is Clifford Eben fighting with James Saunders. He really wants to get past to not miss that train up front. Right in the gap has already opened up quite a bit, Justin, but it seems like he's not giving up yet.
Well, he's going to have to give it up because he just got a black flag already, and he's already nearly getting tangled up already once more again with the NX Racing machine. James Saunders will have to serve the black flag within the next 3 laps. Surprisingly, doesn't serve it immediately here. Looking to stretch it out maybe here because you do have to make it about 25 minutes on the gas. Wonder if he's thinking if he can go as to the very end of that window to serve the penalty, if he can make it on the gas as Eben tries to send it back and nearly gets pushed off the track.
Yeah, this really doesn't help Clifford Eben whatsoever. Last lap was already 1.5 seconds slower than the guys up front, so he's really losing time here with James Saunders just battling away for a position just inside the top 10. They should be working together. Saunders should realize who he has behind him and just let him take himself up to the front, guys.
We're already 3 seconds back as Torres, this time getting the help from Rankin to take away the race lead. And this is typical in part for some of these tracks, but some of this teamwork can come into play here. Or I should say, some of this friendship can come into play. Look on, Weber's up to third. Vicente Salas looking to pounce on the outside.
Not gonna work out for him. The 99 stays in third place after being passed by both Jean-Baptiste Torres and Elvis Rankin. Oh, Rankin going super wide. This might open up the door for Brendan Hawking down into the heel section. Let's see if he's gonna pounce on that. It seems like he just ever so slightly lifted out of the two.
Had to see as well, there was contact with Joaquin Pasty towards the back of the field. That's triggered a black flag for Will Redford. So, two separate black flags now given in this race. I should rather say that was Steve Rossetti that he made contact with. Still. It's the matter, though, of eventually, we're going to have to see the pit strategy come in. And as we've seen before in some of these races, it's actually been powerful to go for the overcut depending on some of the tracks. But the undercut has actually worked a ton in the past few rounds as well.
Yeah, it seems like it really depends on what you're most comfortable with. Is it the undercut? Is it the overcut? And yeah, it seems like most of the times the people that are more confident go for the overcut because they can stay longer out and keep their noses clean.
Yeah, Okayama, the undercut, won the race for Elvis Rankin. With that 2-second buffer, they could not close back up in time to be able to battle for the lead. In fact, they battled more so for second much of that run. Then there was the next race at Suzuka where, well, pandemonium struck from the get-go, and Brandon Hawken either way was turning a second a lap than everyone else in the corners. Then there was Road America, where we've seen drivers with the overcut actually enter right ahead of some of the drivers who did the undercut just a touch bit. So, we may see any type of strategy today as Rankin, this time and now up to the race lead. Torres shuffle back to second, that time with the help of a push from Brendan Hawken as Salas trying to get the switchback line as they enter the boot this time to try and now jump up to P3, and the 08 Sauer Esports driver will do so against Hawken. Also 3 wide in the second pack, by the way. Johnson, Watts, and Bastamonte are currently scrapping back there as the leaders continue to scrap up front.
Yeah, there was even some touching going into that carousel, so really interesting stuff happening there for 11th and back. Right now, Austin Johnson taking that spot over from 15th. He started that lap, so he really made his things work there with the rod.
You know the crazy thing? One of the drivers who is just within range of reaching all these cars if they continue scrapping is Shane Sullivan. How crazy is that? 22 spots gained. We're on lap 5 of this race. Lap 5 and the 91's already in the top half of the field. Leaders now going back at it again, though. Elvis Rankin nearly spun it coming out of the boot. Torres all over the back bumper elects to save fuel instead. These cars getting really squirrely, it seems, already off the corners through the gears. Stefan.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think of what you would want to go here strategy-wise with the tires, obviously. You have the time to take 2, but I wonder with how much these tires will have to work throughout this race. I wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna see some of the drivers actually choose to take those extra 3 seconds that you have to take if you take 4 tires. So really have to keep out for those pit boxes, because only then we're really gonna see what strategies who is on.
We've already had fall off of about 1 second. 1 second of fall off in this race for some of these competitors. For some, about 5/10 depending on their positions early on in this one. But positioning himself for the bottom, Torres switches back up front as the swap continues for the lead, and Ben Hamlin nearly got squeezed a bit with Elvis Rankin looking to try and take away second. Doesn't work.
Yeah, and all this scrapping is really helping Clifford Eben in behind. Last lap it was a second that he was faster, though he really has to keep digging. He has to make those tires scream for the life, because he needs to get back in here if he wants to have still a good shot at not only the win but also the championship.
Absolutely. Sonny Kenshin, mind you, is also in this pack. Vicente Salas still in this pack. Christian Lindroth having a heck of a race in this packing, as well as Nico Omilomi. So they've also, by the way, before you miscount there, an additional lap car. That is Emilio Largo, who was involved in the early incident, who may be a bit helpful for the draft here. He's one of the year one racing cars in the field today. He's at the very back of the train. That may in turn play a factor in that one more car can try and jump into the draft. Clifford Eben just outside of range of that car, in fact. Bit of trouble in the mid-pack of the field just now. Cato and Haynes have just crashed, as well as a couple other cars they have now just towed. That was in the mid-pack, that second grouping we were talking about just now. Let's try and take a look at... Yep, go ahead.
I just want to say, it really did put a big gap into that second group, so that's a big bonus for them. I think it happened through the connection onto the back. Yeah, there we go, onto the cup section. 54 got spun around. He was really sideways into that, but the 012 rather really spun him around, as we saw, and created quite a bit of a stack up in behind.
Well, Redford, who already had to serve a black flag in this race, had yet to serve it, was among the drivers demolished there. Also out of the race, by the way, James Saunders, after his penalty, is elected to park his car. As now, trying to park into the race lead, it's Ben Hamlet to the point.
And I think, yeah, he made it stick there now ahead of Shamal Sastor. Still a little bit of fighting between Rankin and Halkin now. So Halkin on the outside, even going to maybe lose the position to the 27, but he's now on the better side of the track. He has the inside for the toe. Well, let's see if the 27 can use a better entry, not getting held up through the middle. Nope, but it seems like the 99 comes out on top, so he's now back to 4th place.
Now keep in mind, Ben Hamlet does have experience, and a decent amount of experience in that, as mentioned with the go-kart car experience. The team he represented on the open-wheeled side was a team at the time called Red Bull Street Fighter Racing Systems in 2019, or that had competed in an organization that was run in the late 2010s, or series rather in the late 2010s. So he's no slouch in this fight. We haven't seen him too many times in recent months, but he can potentially be a major factor here. He's showing that speed, whether it's been in qualifying, whether it's been in the race too. He's been pretty smart in his race car today.
Yeah, and smartness wins the races on draft tracks, like we have seen already quite a few times this season alone. And let's see if Hamlet can win this race here as well. I think that would be the 4th race driver to win a race this season already, or 3rd.
Way too early to call, I'd have to say, though. By the way, Jonas Seeger has called pit stop time for me right at the window for the top of the fuel mark. That's in the mid-pack. As these leaders continue to shuffle, one thing to want to mention is Shane Sullivan is already up 26 spots in 8 laps. He might get points after not being able to qualify, bump drafting this time for the lead pack. Here's a look at Sullivan.
Yeah, just incredible what he has been doing thus far. 41st to 15th. Just how do you do that? Like, honestly, Shane Sullivan, incredible stuff. He was able to somehow get past that big crash in that turn 2 scenario. So, yeah, kudos to him, and hopefully he can keep that run going.
Before that incident even, he had gained 7 positions. Back to the lead, by the way, Vicente Salas down the straight did take the lead with a little bit of help from Torres for the moment. Hamlet already been shuffled back up to 3rd. But the main thing with all the shuffling is this continues to help the driver save gas, because you burn more fuel as the lead car. So drivers, when they are behind, they can lift a little bit, go less less throttle time, or more 90% throttle, let's say, and be able to try and essentially use what I heard described as one of the teammate for Vicente Salas, Garrett Maines, would say, the IMSA braking mark, about 30 feet earlier, where you lift the gas, then you, as you let it coast for a touch bit, hit the brake. Looking like that Vicente Salas, though, is actually pulling a full 3-4 car lengths all of a sudden to the final sector.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake by Torres out of the boot section, and that was immediately the call for Salas as he was able to bounce on that.
Elvis
And
Rankin just called
Rankin.
pit. Yeah, we both seen that, I think, the same time, Stefan, so he's trying to undercut us again.
This is interesting. The field is extremely split up. Also, there's cars in the back. From 15th back, actually, Shane Sullivan into pit lane. Oh, he just got wrecked into pit lane.
Oh, that's at the start of the pit lane. Shane Sullivan, one of your biggest movers, just got hit hard into the pit wall, and that may end his chances for points. We'll take a look towards this one. Just made it to his box. It was at the end of the lane. That's the bright side. The dark side is this is going to lose him a ton of spots. He picked up the whole entire race because of this.
Yeah, the thing is, he is gonna drive past his pit stall and just now realized, oh, I'm past it, slams on the brake and then hits the reverse. But obviously that created a little bit of a contact there between the 91 and the 92. Both of them obviously still with fast repairs to go, so they're both out already.
On the bright side, there are fast repairs available for that situation. Sullivan did use one in that error car who hit him. Was probably going to use it either way. But with that gap Salas made the last time by, no move for the lead this time. Torres, Hawkin, and company, though, are still scrapping behind them, though. Specifically, Hawkin and Kenshin are trying to work together to try and jump past Ben Hamlet now in the pylon. Approaching 20 minutes to go, 10 estimated laps to go, as the lights are now on to the exit of the boot.
Yeah, and at 55 in the background, he's creeping closer and closer. Clifford Eben digging deep into that deficit that he has to the front group, and he's really making that MX-5 tires work.
Yeah, all that scrapping has helped him. He's the fastest car on the track, in fact, in the 2 minute and 10 second, 0.6 second bracket. With all the cars battling, he's reeled in 3 seconds on his own since James Saunders ended up having to serve his penalty, and he's going to gain some more spots. There go the BRT cars. That's Lindroff Arilomi going with Brandon Hawkin for strategy.
Yeah, and Hawkin extremely late on that decision to go into pit lane. Really seems like that he did practice that pit entrance very well, because he nearly used a full track and then cut back just in front of the barrels to hit his pit stall.
Here's the pit stop comparison you'll now see with Elvis Rankin, who is currently the first driver. In regards to drivers who have pit so far, the Orion Race Team machine picked up some help. That's going to help him. But Brandon Hawkin 2 seconds more quicker. And the pit lane means he's going to shuffle right up in front of him. Just a little bit off the pit lane by a couple car lengths plus.
Yeah, interesting. The time that these guys are doing up front really isn't fast. That's why we see Lonesome Clifford Eben be able to dig into that lead that they have over him. So it's incredible how this dynamic has changed in this race, because normally you would see much faster lap times than in qualifying, but in reality, we are way slower in this race than we saw in qualifying.
Indeed. By the way, the lead pack Torres back up to the point. These drivers can go for maybe up to 2 laps. We'll have to see how many elect to go this time by to play on the safe side. If they go now, they'd have to make it 9 laps towards the end estimated. It all depends, though, on that pace, because with all the back and forth down the back straightaway, Stefan, when they do that, it's 1 second slower than the cars who stay aligned astern, or specifically slower than Clifford Eben.
Yeah, and right now, if I'm one of those guys up in front, I would honestly call it and go into pit lane. I don't want to waste my time, because we know that here probably the undercut is much more suited for overtaking the cars in front. And Kamal Stars realizes that, goes in the pit lane alongside with Hamlet.
Vicente Salas, Clifford Eben both stay out. Eben known for his long stints. Vicente Salas has already a 2 second gap, however, so no draft to work with. These cars will have people to work with for themselves. This is Torres, Kenshin, Hamlet, Kukuku, Watts, and several others have pit in the second group as well. The current net race leader would be Brandon Hawkin, who's currently making his way down the straightaway, working with Elvis Rankin at the moment. Those drivers now passing by now as a longer pit stop is being taken, you just seen, by Torres. He lost a bit of time. The first driver off the lane, Sonny Kenshin. They cycle right in the middle of the group. Hello.
Yeah, and last time around, Elvis Rankin did actually put in the fastest lap of the race at 2:09.2. That really shows you just himself and a lap car in front of him. That's how much faster he was than the guys in front by nearly 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, so they cannot afford to fight a lot back and forth. Thing is, Ben Hamlet's saying, you know what? I want to push this car in front of me and Sonny Kenshin. This may actually help Elvis Rankin. This scrapping closes up the touch. Does end up losing rather some time, as it's Brendan Hawken, I should say, who's going to get help with all this potentially.
Yeah, and actually scratch what I said. Elvis Rankin last time around 2.3 seconds faster than both Salas and Eben. So really digging deep into that advantage they had right now because of those pit stops. So Eben and Salas have to pit this time around, otherwise they're out of this fight.
By the way, the 46 machine currently now cycled off the racetrack was in position for points prior to some trouble. This grouping once again needs to close up to Hawken by about nearly a full 2 seconds. It's now about 1.8 seconds the gap between them, and when you give Brandon Hawken clean space at a track that suits drivers who are quick in the corners, you may lose time to him. By the way, Salas and Eben have both pit this time. Salas did overrun his pit box, however. So did Clifford Evan, and more so. So both of those cars are not going to be able to take advantage, likely, of the overcut.
Yeah, and what happened to Osretskaya is that she actually missed her pit stop as well by quite some margin, and she had to drive backwards over the start-finish line. And if you know the quirks of iRacing, that means it's an automatic disqualification.
Wow. Fortunate for her. By the way, you can guess that Brandon Hawken and Elvis Rankin and company jumped by these drivers and then some, because now that these drivers have cycling settles down a little bit more, they're setting a 1 second faster lap times than they did before the pit window. Well, speaking of that, a bit more scrapping once more. Vicente Salas has cycled to 10th position, 23 seconds back of Balestani, but Bustamante rather, but 11 seconds back of your battle for the race lead at the moment. The driver also coming in with them at the time, as mentioned, was in turn Clifford Evan, who's lost a lot of time as a result of P8. Some Kenshin, though, may have a strong chance in this one if they work together here. As long as they stay single file for at least a lap or two, they can close up the gap and not have a repeat of Okayama.
Yeah, that's the thing, that they can have a repeat of Okayama, because Brandon Hawken, once again, just a better strategy, leading to about a 1 to 1.5 second gap. And the car in front, if they don't work together in the back, is uncatchable. So Sonny Kenshin and Elvis Rankin have to work together to make that gap disappear again.
One of the drivers who did not make the start, believe today, Robert Hartley, does work with Elvis Rankin for his MX-5 program. So you have to think at least some of the veteran experience had to have been told by Rankin to Rankin to be able to make sure he knows this and doesn't push the issue, to make sure that they think big picture instead of thinking, okay, you can jump up one position here, you can get the whole lead if you still settle in for one more lap, because they're almost back within the range of Brandon Hawken now.
Yeah, 1.1 seconds the gap was at the stripe, so they are closing in right now because they're not fighting. Ooh, that's an interesting line there from Elvis Rankin. Wait, wide outside.
Who cares
of
about
21?
incident points? Who cares about incident points when you get into time, I guess? I mean, I've done it before, that's the method, but the probably thought is, have an X, may as well burn an X. That gets them now under 1 second, by the way, as Brandon Hawken already is playing the snake role now at the front of the field.
There we go. Rankin is gonna bump draft Sonic Engine. He is looking at the bigger picture and realizes they can still catch Brandon Hawking in front. And that means pretty much that Brandon Hawking will get caught by the end of this race. Question is though, when?
Looking like it might be next lap at this rate, because it's already down to 7/10. This was about the gap that Vicente Salas had gotten after that loose moment with Torres you referred to out of the boot. They've already closed up half a tenth, just in that little straightaway alone. So these cars won't be there to likely scrap for this lead by the time they get to the backstretch the next time. Torres, though, is trying to jump by Elvis Rankin now side by side.
Yeah, and this really isn't good for the draft pack, because that is gonna create a little bit of a gap. Now it's actually pulling out, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But the car length between Rankin and Kenshin. Same between Hawking and Kenshin.
Now, anything that's going to help Sonny Kenshin. 6 estimated laps to go this time. By the way, the second pack has settled in. Clifford Eben, Vicente Salas, Nico Arvilomi are the drivers who've grouped up there. Arvilomi has lost his teammate Christian Lindroth throughout all of this. Also running on their own a few seconds ahead of these cars is Ben Hamlet. So these competitors trying to work together and close in. If anything happened in the lead group, these drivers might be fighting for a podium. And that just shows you make a major mistake in the pit lane, that's what happens. That 2 seconds loss from overrunning the respective pit boxes, Stefan, in turn, led to a net loss of about 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds or so. If they didn't have that, they likely cycle where Ben Hamlin and company are at this point.
Yeah, something like that as Sonny Kenshin is catching. He is gonna bump draft the 99, and here now also comes Elvis Rankin, gets the door slammed right in his face. Sonny Kenshin saying, "You not pass," and Rankin continues in 3rd place. And now this is pretty much at the front of free-for-all. It's 4 guys, 1 position. Who wants it all? And especially, how much are they willing to invest to win this?
They'll have about 4 laps to try and decide it. Remember last time they got towards this grouping with this amount of cars, pandemonium broke loose on the final lap after drivers got to the start and finish line within 10 seconds of triggering an additional lap. What will happen in today's race? Again, 2 minutes 10 seconds is the current pace. The rough estimates on the map would currently be around that 4 laps. If not, it's close by about maybe half a minute or so to get a 5th lap.
Yeah, and that once again opens up the question, who did put in how much fuel? Did they calculate with an extra lap or not? And it just brings us back to the cycle of Road America, because there we had people who did take enough fuel for a potential 5th lap. And you know, it's the risks you take with being a front runner. How much fuel do you take? Do you just take those 0.2 liters of extra fuel so that you can cross the finish line without your car stuttering? Or are you planning for an extra lap just in case?
You know how close they just got? If I did the rough estimates right, at the pace they're running right now in the 2 minute 10 second bracket, they would have that extra lap, if my count is right, by 10 seconds. In other words, if you want to try and prevent the extra lap, you're going to have to start scrapping. Guess what? They're starting to scrap. Bump draft. Sonny Kenshin, the longtime MX-5 veteran. Now to the race lead, Elvis Rankin pushes his way past Brandon Hawken. Torres now makes it near 3 wide for the battle for second. Lap car tries to dive way up the racetrack. Out of the way goes the year 1 car, as Kenshin looks to try and run away with under 8 minutes to go. And if they continue to scrap just like that, take that 10-second equation out, because remember, they are 2 seconds slower when they try and scrap like they did the first stint.
And also, the question is, how does iRacing decide when they want to throw that white flag? Because remember, it can happen that we do get not that last lap, even though we would have been good by 2 or 3 seconds. So really all comes down to these guys. How much are they fighting? And especially, did they calculate with that extra lap of fuel? Which I wouldn't be surprised if many of them didn't calculate with an extra lap. And yeah, it's just interesting. Right now, the dark horse in this group most definitely is Shaman's Torres, sitting in 4th place, has been sitting there since the pit stops. Brandon Hawkins has been leading, and now he's back to 3rd place. Can get a little bit of a rest, doesn't need to really be haunted by these guys right now. Can look at their lines and maybe strike from the shadow.
Here's the thing, I think part of why Torres has been waiting so much or being a bit more patient this run. He took the least amount of time in the pit box rather than anyone else in this lead group who was on the lead lap. Hawkins 16.1 seconds estimated. Rankin 18.8 seconds. Sonny Kenshin 15.2. In other words, Rankin might be in the best position to try and be able to go on the attack. Is doing exactly that on the high side this time. He wants to try and use up some of that extra fuel he may have. Everyone else, though, single file, as Torres now again wants to go 3 wide, this time for the lead. This time gets enough toe to dive it his way to the point.
That was most definitely impressive there by Shaman's Torres, who realizes he has the speed to overtake all 3 of them and does it perfectly before entering the carousel. So now the Iberian in 1st place with Ellis Rankin. Thinking he's going to enter first that carousel, but now only in 2nd.
Currently the estimate would be 2 laps to go at the line, but again, it's going to be tight. It all depends too on not only where they cross the line, but also where iRacing would calculate that checkered flag mark. It depends from circuit to circuit at times. At Watkins Glen, it can be very, very tight with the start and finish line. There's also at some tracks, mind you, where you're required to see the white flag when you cross the stripe. Tracks such as Le Mans are in that category. You might be able to fit Nürburgring into that grouping as well at times. At the C right now, they ran about 2 minutes and 11 seconds last time at the stripe. Currently, they would need to be at that clip to be tight. They're going to be within 10 seconds again of that same mark. This time at the stripe, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the dot just about. That is going to mean it's going to be within about 4 seconds this time. Now it's bumped the estimate up to 2 to go with that tightness just now, Stefan.
Yeah, so it continues the same gamble as it was in Road America. Are we going to have that extra lap or are we not going to have that? My bet is that we're not going to have that extra lap, so 2 to go, I'm pretty sure, as there's also a lap car ahead. That's Gary Anderson.
Yeah, he has not been having a great day, Gary Anderson has. Although he's gained 4 positions. Gary Anderson, though, may be used as a drafting pawn now for this lead group. As a result of all this, they may get to him on the white flag lap. Dive up the inside for Kenshin, nearly forces Torres wide. Meanwhile, Brandon Hawkins now looking to try and go for the switchback on Kenshin. Dives hard to the inside as they nearly make contact. Sliding up the track goes Kenshin. He saves it.
I heard contact noises there between Hawkins and Kenshin, but I can't really confirm if there was actually some touching. Either way, Sonny Kenshin shot up the track and had to give back that position to Hawkins, who is now back in 3rd place. And there goes Gary Anderson all the way to the right side of the track.
And Gary Anderson going to be taken near 3 there, as Torres has taken a peek here a couple times. You have to feel that he might be trying to weigh it out, see if that would be possible, because no one really has gotten too many passes done there today yet. Expecting potentially One of the final laps here in this race. Again, will it be the white flag or will there be the extra lap is going to be the biggest question on everybody's minds here. Less than 2 minutes and 40 seconds now on the clock as Rankin has a 3-second car length cushion again after that move from Torres. And it looks like they may get that white flag because this time by 2 minutes and about 20 seconds or so, it's going to be within 0.8 this time. 8 seconds rather. We'll have to see. It's going to be tight. If it is that true case here, Stefan, we'll see a lot of intensity. If they haven't gotten it to where they can get the indication they get the white, I think we see drivers try and set it up. The question is which type of runs do we get here?
Either way, no more playing around in this battle. Shaman Torres, he's gonna go for the bump. Yes, he is. Shaman Torres wants to make that a 2-car battle going into the toe. What's with the guys behind Brandon Hawking and Sonny Kenshin? Kenshin actually goes to the inside. That's interesting. So he's gonna slow himself and Brandon Hawking up here, but actually makes it work so that he really doesn't lose too much to Torres. Still is about a 2-car gap between those two.
Of note, by the way, remember Jonas Seeger pit about 25 minutes to go. He could not make it. He had to pit from the second pack just now. So there's a little bit of concern potentially if you're in the field. He had about an 18-second pit stop, give or take, towards the start of that window early on in this race. So that's something to keep in mind for the gas as they go to the boot. 1 minute to go on the clock. Once again, it's going to be within a couple seconds at the stripe. Looking like these drivers may have realized that too. It's almost looking like they are trying to prepare in case it's that mark for one last lunge on the last lap to make sure they have enough gas to be able to make the move. Remember, Torres has the least amount of pit stop time out of anybody in the lead pack. 30 seconds now on the clock as they go through the final corners once again. And it's looking like they're going to have that one more. We'll have to make sure at the stripe. 15 seconds this time. Contact behind. Kenshin and Hawkins collide. Diving on in is Sonny Kenshin. 7 seconds at the stripe. White flag expected this time. It is now a 2-car scrap. Torres and Rankin will battle for the win. Let's take a look at what happened, and this is going to be wide. This is now going to be a 2-car scrap.
Honestly didn't see what happened there, so let's have a look as Hawkins goes to the inside there. Kenshin immediately goes into pit lane as well, realizes he has damage. So that was interesting as we're going to go to the front.
Remember, Torres took less fuel than Sonny Kenshin. Kenshin had to go straight on in with the faster pair too. Torres now to the race lead. Can he make it to the finish is the biggest question. Rankin has to check up with the swerve to the bottom. Rankin tries to set it up on the outside as they go off to the boot for the final time. And now, how do you try and get this back now if you're Elvis Rankin? We've talked about it a couple times. That run out of the heel heading off towards the toe hasn't worked quite yet today. Here they come out of the heel. Rankin trying to build the draft up to the gears. Not close enough to try and make the dive. Or is he? He thought about it. Torres gave him the space. Rankin, though, not able to fill it. Final corners as Rankin needs to close up another car length and a half to have a shot. It might come down to the stripe. Drivers have saved fuel down that section several times today. Will these drivers be able to see this side by side this time? Rankin trying to set up one last lunge. Both of them check up off the tires. Torres is out of gas. Rankin across the stripe. Elvis Rankin will win it at Watkins Glen. Torres will come home second. The question is, who will get third as Brandon Hawkins got a black flag prior to the stripe. Believe it might be Lindroth, who is also out of gas.
Wow, what a finish. Out of the last corner, runs out of fuel. Christian Lindroth also a great pass on him for that 4th place over Ben Hamilton, who also was running out of fuel. So incredible battles all the way around as Shane Sullivan is going to come home in 15th, 17th. Looks like it's 17th for him.
I think Elvis Rankin played this perfectly, Stefan. Most gas than anybody. He, I think, may have been one of the only 2 to factor in that extra lap.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got it there perfectly right, but also do you think that Jean-Marc Sestorius was calculating with that extra lap, just got it ever so slightly wrong with having that draft all the time?
To put this in perspective, there is the cooldown lap drivers usually have to take here. Fernandez, who finished in 37th, is trying to help him finish the cooldown lap. Let's take a look at the replay in all this, as Torres has just run out of gas now for reference in the S's. For sure in his stop. Yep, just ran out of gas by about a straightaway.
Yeah, really unfortunate there from Torres, as we are now going to ride on board with him. Let's for this. Yep, there it is. It is completely dry in that engine. The last few droplets go in, and that was what she needed.
Yeah, explains why he was saving. He was trying so hard that seemed coming to that pre-ultimate lap. But in the end, Rankin takes the checker flag. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. Stick around. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for the virtual Watkins Glen International. Welcome back to the virtual Watkins Glen International for the -273 post-race show. Whether it's on the real track or the virtual track, -273 has one goal in mind: produce the best racing gloves to get the job done. With unmatched comfort, durability, and style, their gloves will leave your old ones in the dust. Find out how they can help you by visiting -273.biz. Should note this is once again unofficial. There is a potential appeal that may come into play. We'll have to keep an eye on that one for the black flag on the final lap for Brandon Hawken. But Elvis Rankin, either way, is your race winner over Yame Torres. Those drivers needed good points hauls. Rankin closes up that gap and then some. Either way on Brandon Hawken and then some. He's your second two-time winner this season. Christian Lindroth currently is scored P3. Ben Hamlet, Vicente Sal is the top 5. Clifford Evan finishes in 6-7 seconds behind the field. Arilomi started in 8th, finished in 7th. Pukuku finished in 8th position. Austin Johnson, give him a shout out, has been looking for an organization to join from 25th to 9th, but Sonny Kenshin recovers to a 10th place finish currently.
Juan Bustamante from 20th up to 11th. Caleb Heights finished in 12th with Ono Watts in 13th. And the man, the myth, the Sullivan legend from 40 1st to 14th place. Switch the numbers around because that's exactly where he finished. Dominic Appleding in 15th, also no small feat from 33rd, by the way. Adam Mariak's 16th place, and then Brandon Hawking right now unofficially being scored in 17th position. But we are getting word that Kachin actually wants to appeal that penalty given out to Hawking, so have to take that a little bit with a grain of salt. They far out with 18th place finish, Rui Coimbra 19th, and Vicente Wood from 36th up to 20th.
21st tonight, Harvey Harlow with Austin Smith in 22nd. Liam Hyde's very quiet race today, had a rough qualifying session after being in the top group much of the first few weeks. 23rd is where he runs. Lace Adams Jr. finishes in 24th, one of the drivers involved in that pit stop kerfluffle with Munoz in 25th. Seeger had to pit a second time, was short on the gas in 26th. Gober in 27th. Alex Prem in 28th. Arisetti in 29th. Lee Martin quietly P30.
41st went to James Saunders and Joaquin Pasti.
You skipped the one line there, I believe. 31st.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I totally skipped them. I'm so sorry. Jordan Bachmeier in 31st, as you said, with Stephen Bunting 32nd, Teriyaki Kato in 33rd, George Fike, the last car on the lead lap, finished in 34th, Will Radford, the first car on one lap down in 35th, Gary Anderson 36th, Juan Manuel Fernandez, very unlucky start for him, getting caught up in that turn 2 crash, only finishes in 37th. Emilio Largo, first car 2 laps down, and also I think the last car to finish here today, with Andres Preto in 39th. Lyubov Oseretskowskaya with that disqualification, 9 laps down in 40th, and the last 2 cars also didn't finish. They were also collected in that first lap incident.
Elvis Rankin taking home the checker flag today. His first win of the season to start off this campaign came down to strategy. At Okayama, it was a 2-second plus buffer that drivers were not able to close up in that race. Today, had the most fuel out of anybody, it seemed, longest pit stop time out of anybody in the lead group, and it's enough, coming down to within 3 to 5 seconds or so of having it in one less lap. He comes home with the checker flag and makes it on the gas. Elvis, first things first, how are you feeling?
Really, really good. I was saving fuel the first half of the race, and the thing I wanted to stress enough was taking enough fuel. I actually think I took a little bit too much fuel, but I'll tell you what, that's a lot better than taking less.
Yeah, Torres had the shortest pit stop time for reference sake there. How would you describe some of the racing today? Because it almost looked like a back and forth while you were trying to save the gas for that lead pack. At least several lead changes before the pit stop window separated everybody out.
Yeah, there was it was definitely hard to save fuel because you didn't want to save too aggressively, or else then you would be risked of passing from the cars behind. But kind of found a good rhythm that I could just save in the corners that I needed to, and no, it was so much fun. There were so many lead changes. We were going back and forth at it, and just came down to fuel at the end. And I can't thank my team enough because they put me on the right strategy.
Was going to say that some of the teammates there, some of the veteran help comes into play for this one. But a big race overall, but it's Roval racing next. What I mean by that is the Charlotte Roval up next on the docket. Your thoughts on going there, which is a track known for its craziness?
Really good. I did the PAX event that iRacing had, and I did really well, and I feel like that track has a little bit of bugs, but I think I've worked all those stuff out, and I feel like I'm really fast at the Roval, so it's not that too heavy of a draft track, but I think it'll be really good.
By the way, unofficially, you are the points leader after this second win of the season for you. Who would you like to thank?
Yeah, for sure. I want to first off thank my teammate Travis Schwenke. Did an amazing job on the gas tonight, just coaching me through what I had to do, and just whenever it was just, the strategy, it came down to it, it took a big burden off my shoulders because he was able to work that out for me. And a little bit of a hiccup in the stop, but it was all good. Orion Race Team, just can't do it without them, everything they do. My mom, my dad, my grandma, and my grandpa, they just help me with everything that I do. Um, GSRC for broadcasting the race today. Big C's Miata League. Clifford Eben for putting this whole deal on. We couldn't do it without him. And yeah, everybody that helps put Orion Race Team cars out front, we couldn't do it without you guys. HPP, Mark, thank you so much. JRT, Joel, thank you guys, our sponsors, just keeping us going forward. And yeah, I'm super ready for the Roval.
Congratulations on the win today.
Yeah, thank you.
Elvis Rankin now has 94 total points in the season. Best average finish on anybody unofficial once again with the situation with Hawkins. Hawkins currently second in the points, 77 points already, nearly 20 points behind. Torres, 75 total points, just 2 points behind Hawkins, Evan, and Hartley, the unofficial top 5. Stefan, real quickly, your thoughts on this one?
Oh, most definitely, it brought all the choice of draft racing that we can have. Big wrecks, big excitement, and quite a crazy finish. Once again, twice in a row, we had extremely close finishes with the clock. So, only gives us more to hope for next week at the Charlotte Roval.
Indeed. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action for Watkins Glen. From Watkins Glen, however, as we'd like to thank Clifford Evan and the Big C's for organizing this strong series. So I'd like to thank the sponsors in Sim Experience, SHH Shifter, -273, and Pitballs.io. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. Be listed up on screen now. Special thanks to Jude Lauren, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today as well, and Stefan and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check the merchandise for sale at gsrc.storyofyouwhy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to your YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next race heads to the Charlotte Roval for November the 15th. Be sure to tune in. Coverage starts at approximately 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so check those out and mark them down your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.